This is World Comics Review, and this is another little interesting aside in comics history. And by a curious coincidence, it's also about Japanese ones and also about the 1940s. So anyway, this is King. This is the issue from December 1932, I believe. Let's find out. Showa 7. I've gone and forgot. So yeah, I've got this. I've got a reference on my phone, right? Showa 7, 1932, right. So this is King for December 1932. So King was started in 1925 and finished in 1957. It's issued by Kodansha, which is a popular publisher that's still going today, creating lots of comics and everything else. And yep, it was more of a story paper with some comic strips. So obviously story papers are part of the history of comics. So yeah, an ancestor of Shonen Jump in a size, if not in exact content. It was kind of had stories and news information and general articles for everybody. So yeah, these colorized pictures at the start. Some farm workers, people going home reading King, and yeah, we have photo articles. These are some tennis players. Girl practicing golf, some people feeding pigeons in a park, and yes, comic strips too. So there's some sumo comic strips, some circus performers and so on. That a kid that likes aeroplanes has got his blanket sideways like wings. Yeah, and some blah 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 articles about karate or some other martial art. More comic strips. A surprising amount of comics in this one, actually. This is actually quite a fairly detailed strip for the time and for the place. So yeah, it had a kind of a satirical cartoons, articles about the news, photo articles, many complete and serialized stories set in samurai times, modern times. Things got more militaristic, but before World War II the Russo-Japanese War featured a lot as well. So yeah, King was launched in 1925 and was launched with a gigantic ad campaign, including bookshops being persuaded to put up flags with the name on, which is still something that sort of happens today. There's bits of cardboard sticking out of the shelf with the name of a popular manga or author on. And it was the first magazine in Japan to sell over 1 million copies. So even the very first issue sold 740,000, and it soon sold 1 million copies every month, and the record was 1.5 million in November 1928, and it kind of sustained that figure for a while, and it was so popular that Kodansha's record division renamed itself King Records, which you can maybe not see here. So yes, old gramophone record is King Record, and King Records actually long outlasted the magazine itself. So here's a vinyl 45 with King Records on, and here is that anchor record I was looking at before, which is probably from the Showa 57, which is 1982 I believe, and that's also from King Records. So yeah, King Records long outlasted the magazine and still exists today, in fact. Anyway, the name King became quite a problem in World War II because obviously it's an English word and Japan is fighting against America and the UK, so in 1943 they adopted what was called the hostile language policy. So King was renamed to Fuji, and these are the issues for November and August, July and August 1943, so it was King renamed Fuji. And obviously wartime paper shortages obviously saw it become much thinner as well, but still similar content, although a lot more militaristic stuff, as you can see. You see the patriotic adverts, anecdotes about the wars in samurai times, military march past. These are schoolgirls, nurses, whatever, being trained in like a military manner. Soldiers in China, in Manchuria. These are children, strict discipline at schools. monks or somebody giving thanks to him. And air raid advice as well, which is pretty common even when the Second Sino-Japanese War started. And American volunteer pilots were fighting Japan before America officially entered World War II. There was already air raid advice in most magazines. So wear these padded hoods, which I've seen in the Osaka Peace Museum, and they don't look like they've been that effective. Sleep with your possessions nearby so you can quickly escape the house, and have firefighting gear like these hooks to pull off thatched roofs, and wet mops to water down wooden buildings so they won't catch fire. Various air raid firefighting precautions. And yeah, other content like should be going this way really. Same serialized stories, articles about the news, samurai era stories, and so on. Biographies of people, obviously looks like a serial story about the Navy, and so on. Yes, so yeah, from whenever the hostile language policy started in 1943, it became King renamed Fuji. And here is the New Year edition for 1944, where it's just named Fuji, and has the mountain, just so you know. It's Great Japan something. So this was well into World War II, and the situation was taking a turn not necessarily to Japan's benefit. Is people praying in the direction of the emperor maybe, or praying out to sea for the safety of their son or younger brother who's in the Navy maybe. Is the Navy. Here's Tojo and some other dignitaries. Article about turning coal into liquid fuel, which is possible, but not very efficient to fuel airplanes. How various household waste can be refined into war-making materials and so on. More satirical cartoons that are not so satirical anymore. No criticising the government. Samurai story. Article about the Mosquito, the British plane. Serialised stories. How to cultivate food in your own garden because of shortages and so on. And yeah, so because of the hostile language policy, King was renamed Fuji for the rest of the war, but pretty soon after World War II ended, it was just returned to King again. So this one is from 1949 with a not brilliantly printed cover. It really is this blurry. So yeah, 1949 it was already just returned to being King again, and more serial stories of innocent subjects, and the comic strips returned. Fewer but not no comic strips during World War II. I guess they were sort of as a kind of decadent western whatever. So yeah, comic strips returned, photo articles, soldiers being returned from Russia and China. Small thing about television. Soldiers being returned from Russia and China and getting new jobs in rebuilding projects and stuff. So yeah, King went on, and this is still thin, still shortages, but gradually returned to its pre-war thickness too, and ended in 1957, which was replaced by another magazine called Nippon, or Japan. That lasted until 1966, but never quite achieved the same sales figures that the pre-war King did.